this time it is with Charlotte Wall, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Bolton in psychology. Good morning, how are you today?
Hello, I'm not too bad, thank you. Are you okay?
Yeah, not too bad, although I feel like I'm living in a dungeon because it's going really dark. I think it's going to start raining again. Happy August in England. Does it ever stop raining? We had like a week of nice sunshine and now it's gloom and doom.
Yeah, yeah, it's not nice.
It's really funny, my family are in America, and when I say to them it's raining again, I just get laughing emojis saying, it's England.
What's new?
True, true story. Okay, so thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today. As you know, I am speaking to, well, originally it was academics, and now I'm speaking to PhD candidates too, talking about everybody's educational journey, just to find out how education has been for you along the years and how you've ended up where you're currently sitting and where you're going to go in the future. So we'll start off with a really open question. How has your education been?
Um, I think in comparison to some people's lifestyles and education, it's actually not been that bad.
Okay.
I don't have many memories of junior school, but I think I was actually okay in junior school. I was quite a happy child
Yep.
from what I've heard. I had friends in junior school, which was nice.
Yes,
It was high school.
Good.
Yeah, friends is good. It was high school when everything kind of went a bit south.
Oh, what
People
do you mean?
used to,
Go
sorry.
on, sorry. I interrupted you then. I was going to say, what do you mean by going south?
Well, people used to take the mick out of me. They would say I was the weirdo of the school, and my dad was a lot older than their parents, probably old enough to actually be my granddad. So that was a bit of an issue that the children just didn't resonate with, and they just took the mick. Oh, look, your granddad's come to pick you up, and it's like, no, it's my dad, and you know it's my dad. You don't need to take the mick. I know you have an issue with it, but please don't. I didn't do anything to them. I never said anything to them. Sometimes it was hard. I had teachers telling me that I wasn't going to get the grades I needed, and that I would fail.
Wow.
Don't know. I never participated in class. I had such low self-esteem, such low confidence that I just didn't want to participate in class. My teachers would force me to participate in class, and they'd have me read books, and they'd have me answer questions. And I actually, at the end of my GCSEs, was it my GCSEs? No, sorry, at the end of my year 11, so when I was doing my GCSEs, God, it was like long ago, I can't remember. I actually stopped going to school and taught myself from home.
Really?
Because it had got that bad. The teachers were just not helping me. The students weren't interested. I went to actually one of the worst schools in the area because that was where my friends went. Biggest mistake. So I actually didn't do too bad though. I actually passed with 11 GCSEs, all A to C, and that included English. So when I got my English qualification, I had a B. I was 1 mark off an A, and I walked up to my English teacher and I said, "I proved you wrong." I said, "I got a B." And I just went, "Bye.
Really?
I'm going to go to university and everything." And that's where I am now.
What did they say?
Well, I don't think I really gave her much a chance to say anything because I think her jaw hit the floor because I'd never spoke back to her ever. And it was, yeah, her jaw just hit the floor. She never even said anything. It was, yeah.
Oh, that makes me feel so sad. Like, what is it that changed from going to junior school into high school? Where did your self-esteem go?
I don't know. So like junior school, I had like a best friend, a really, really close best friend. And then we changed. Obviously you do. As you go, when you mature and you move into high school, things change, dynamics change. They became popular, makeup and all that sort of stuff. I never got a clue. So I always used to hang around with the lads. I mean, I got banned from playing rugby with the girls because I was too boisterous. I got banned from playing hockey because I hit the ball too hard. So I always used to just joke around and play with the lads, like play football, play rugby with the lads, because that was where I fitted in. I didn't fit in with the girls. The girls were always on about makeup and nails and spa days, and I wasn't interested in that. I was just interested in my education and just general everyday stuff.
Okay.
And the boys were they never really talked about anything, so it kind of worked. That was, yeah.
Do you think that's maybe where you were targeted because I don't know, you were more comfortable in sitting around with the boys rather than with the girls?
Yeah,
Where was it jealousy?
I don't know.
Was it
I don't know. I mean,
girls?
there were times when I was actually part of the samba band during
Oh,
my high school years. Because they needed me because I was the only one that could carry the biggest drum.
oh,
Because I was really big, and I was the only one that could carry this drum. So we all ended up, me and my friends that were my friends when we were in junior school, all joined the samba band, and that was the only way that we stayed friends. And then it just sort of fell apart and depleted, and that was that. And we started doing our GCSEs, and everybody just moved away,
yeah.
and that's kind of when everything went a bit
So
south. And I
how?
kept moving from groups because I just didn't fit in.
Why was that? Have you any idea why you think you didn't fit in?
I think it was because they used to call me weird because I was always either really, really quiet or really, really loud. And I think that stems to my bipolar diagnosis. So when I actually was diagnosed with bipolar, a lot of my school years and my college years made a lot of sense. And I think that's, now that I think back to it, I think because I was bipolar was the reason why I was the weird child.
When was that diagnosis?
I was 21. Hang on a minute, what year are we in? It's 21, isn't it? It's
Right.
21, yeah.
21.
Yeah, I think it was 2017, 2018. So yeah, I was about 21, 22, I think.
And how did that come about?
I got out of a relationship, and when I break up from relationships, I either go really, really depressed or really, really manic. There is no in between. And at this time, I broke up from this relationship and I went completely off the rails. I went out drinking every night. I was doing things that I wouldn't normally do. I was having parties. It was crazy. And I met someone, and they said, right, we think that I'm seeing similar signs to what I've got. And I was like, right, I think you need to go and speak to your GP. So I went and spoke to my GP, and they referred me to a psychiatrist who, after some time, diagnosed me with bipolar disorder.
How do you manage that?
How do I manage that? I'm not medicated, so I sort of manage it myself, but I think having psychology helps me. So I think the fact that I've studied psychology put me in a really good position, because it allowed for me to understand bipolar more than what you would do if you had just gone to a psychiatrist and never had a psychology background.
Of course.
And
What
studying is my mechanism.
What are your reasons for not being medicated?
They put me on medication, and it interacted with other medication I was on, and it wasn't very pleasant. And I said, I couldn't type, I couldn't write, my whole creativity just went. And I said, no, I'm not being medicated, because I couldn't focus, I couldn't study, I couldn't do anything. I was a zombie.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It's really interesting, the theories around medication, isn't it? I have a family member who has bipolar, and they were on lithium. I'm not entirely sure what the medication is these days, but you can get to a point where you think you're okay, so you stop taking it, and then you may dip again, and then it just becomes very messy, doesn't it? So it's whether
It
you
does.
want to long term rely on that medication, or maybe, yes, like you're doing, try to manage the bipolar a different way. Does it depend on the level of bipolar? That's my ignorance. I'm not entirely sure if that's the right question.
Yeah. So it depends on events as well. So if my life is pretty plain sailing, so I'm just sort of going along quite nicely, if something happens, whether somebody dies or a relationship breakup or something, I go either up or down. I'm sort of like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's how I would explain it.
But you're able to manage those ups and downs without the medication.
Yeah, I know my pattern, and I'm quite well in tuned on how it affects me.
What strategies do you put in place?
So financial wise, I have a thing for spending money.
Hey, so do I.
Then again, they say that is a symptom of bipolar, but I think that can actually go for most of the population, to be fair.
Yes.
But I haven't. Yes, I love spending money. So I have, if I feel like I'm having a dip and I'm going to go and spend money, I just sort of handle financial control to somebody close, so somebody I trust, either my mum or my dad or a partner or whatever. I'd just sort of go, I need somebody just to take control of my finances, because this is just, I'm just going to go off and spend.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways I do it. The other part is, if I'm having a depressive episode, I always try to fight myself through it. So I'll read, or I'll try and take a focus onto something else and take my ruminating away from negative and put it onto my university work. That is my main coping strategy. Sitting at my desk and writing up my PhD is my main coping strategy.
And it works for you?
I love it. Actually, to be fair, I don't know what I'm going to do after I've like finished. I would be, yeah, I'm going to go back to uni. I'll be the librarian, if you've ever seen that. I don't know if you've ever seen it. The guy who just goes to university and studies everything from A to Z. That would be me.
Yeah.
That would be me if I could do that.
I understand that though, especially if it's part of your therapy.
Yeah, it is. I recommend. 5 stars.
Well, you recommend education or getting bipolar?
I recommend education as a coping mechanism. I don't recommend bipolar, although in terms of my own experiences, it does help me with my studies. I get told that I need to be reined in because I'm so out there and so like a flashlight constantly all the time, new ideas. I need to be reined in.
I mean, knowing a little bit from some supervisors that I've spoken to, they like people with ideas. That's what's good about being a PhD student, is having those ideas. The ones who kind of sit there and are really difficult to pull those thoughts out of, they're the ones who they really struggle with. So I think having ideas is great.
Yeah, I could give people ideas if they need help with ideas, because I just, but
You've
they're
got
not
hundreds of
probably
them.
not doable. It's probably really wacky or crazy or something.
But you have the ideas.
Yeah, ideas aren't an issue.
Okay, so you told me that, going back to school, you told me that you pretty much took yourself out of school to finish and to do your GCSEs, and you did okay at your GCSEs. That was brilliant. Why did you think about going to college then? If you had such a tough time at school, what made you think, you know what, I had a really tough time, but I'm going to carry on?
Because I love education. Education is my niche, and I wasn't really bothered about people, to be honest. I just sort of thought, you know what, I'll just be me. And I think I grew up a lot. It was like within like a space of 12 months, I grew up a lot. And I realized that, well, life's not about pleasing people. It's about pleasing yourself and doing what you want to do and not caring what other people think. There's too much of that in the world. We shouldn't be caring what other people think.
It really is. There's a lot of people who still don't learn that, a lot older than you.
Yeah.
It's good that you learned that soon. Yeah.
I think that's because my dad is a lot older. So my dad is 84. So I have a very, very old mindset because I have been brought up with that.
Yeah.
And I think now that has benefited me.
Yeah. That's good. What did you study at college?
I did psychology and I did a BTEC in forensic science because actually, funnily enough, I don't actually know if it classifies as a fail, but I only got a D in psychology. Considering I'm now doing a PhD, I really don't understand how that's possible.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know, that's how life works, I suppose.
I think the
Yeah.
thing is, though, when you do perhaps an A level in psychology, it's psychology as a whole, isn't it? And I know that when I was doing my undergraduate degree, I was really good when it came to social psychology and dead engaged and interested. But then put me in a biopsychology class and start talking about amygdalas and all kinds of serotonin and dopamine releases, and it took ages for me to kind of figure out what that all meant. So I think when you're doing every part of psychology, of course it's possible to not do as well, but when you're doing, like we are, a PhD in a specific area, then
Yeah,
that's very different, isn't it?
definitely.
It's
Now
niche,
that I
it's
think
what you're
about it.
interested in.
Yeah. I didn't ever go to my psychology classes, so it was my own fault.
Well, that'll do it. That'll do it. If you don't go, you're probably not going to get a good grade.
Yeah, it was my own fault. I just felt like that was actually an issue, that I was being picked on because
Again,
I was quiet. I was sat in the back and I was quiet and I was picked on all the time. And I always overcomplicate the questions. Somebody asked me what 2 add 2 was, I would be sitting there and I'd be doing like equations or I don't know, algebra or something. Algebra is equations, Charlotte, but yeah, you know what I mean. I'm not good at maths.
no, I understand. What, did you feel picked on by the teachers?
I suppose suppose so, in some sense, because it was just, Charlotte, answer this question.
And
And I'd be like, all these people looking at me, and I didn't fit in, not in that class. And I was like, okay then.
do you think it was they were trying to get you to engage, but just going about it the wrong way?
They were trying to get me to engage with them. They were trying to get me engaged with the class, and they went about it the wrong way because it just shut me off completely.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's so important, the teachers, isn't it? The teaching style. Did you have any teachers that you looked up to and, you know, helped you along your journey?
I don't know. Now that I think about it, I don't actually think I did. I think I just plodded on and didn't really think about those sorts of things. I just sort of thought that, well, life's planned out for me anyway, so whatever happens, happens.
Fair enough.
That was my attitude. Not probably a very good one, but yeah.
So what did you leave college with? What qualifications did you get?
I got 3 A stars in forensic science and a D in psychology.
And then where did you go next?
Bolton.
Bolton.
I went to Bolton.
And
Yeah.
what was it you studied at Bolton?
So I had this thing for understanding serial killers and why they committed crime, why they killed. I really had this fascination with serial killers. So I thought, right, okay, why don't I do forensic psychology? So I studied criminological and forensic psychology.
That is the hardest word, isn't it?
Try saying that when you're drunk. Can't even say it when I'm sober. Probably could say it better when I'm drunk, actually, but yeah. So yeah, that's what I applied to. I got accepted. So that was where my life at Bolton started. Didn't do freshers week. I think I was probably one of the only students that didn't in my cohort. But I wasn't really interested in that. I was just like, I'm at uni, this is fantastic. I'm going to be, I'm going to put my head down and study. Didn't do very well. Well, I just say I didn't do very well. I got a 2-1, but I from going through all the different like crim courses in like the different areas, I realized that actually forensic psychology was not my strong point.
Okay.
And mental health and clinical was more my area that I kind of worked well in. So after I graduated from my undergraduate, I was umming and ahhing about what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, okay, while I'm thinking about what I want to do, I'll just go and do another course. So I did my master's in just straight psychology at Bolton. And that was when I was diagnosed with bipolar and I was manic, because people from that cohort could tell you some stories. I don't really remember, to be fair. I was really, really quite bad.
Yeah.
I was the youngest in my group, and I was just telling people about my nights out every night. How I did my work, I do not know. I really don't know how I did my work, but I did my work, and got through that quite well, actually. I really enjoyed university. University was definitely, or is definitely, my favorite time for education. I sort of
found yourself.
Yeah, I study so hard now. It's like when I was a child, when I was at sixth form, when I was at school, I did study, but not to the degree that I'm studying now. And I really wish I could go back in time and just tell myself that you need to put the time in and effort in then.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe things might have been a bit different. But hey ho, hindsight and all that. But yeah, so then I did my master's, and then I was actually going to do a teaching qualification. But unfortunately, I realised that a teaching qualification involved working with children, and unfortunately, that would not end well for me or them. So I decided that a PhD was what I'll do next. And that's where I'm up to now, and I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm going to do next.
So you're not interested in teaching children? We've got that.
Oh no, I don't want to teach children. No offence to anybody who's watching this who has children. But I just, and you, Lindsay, because I know you have.
No offence,
Sorry.
I don't want to teach my child.
Yeah, I'm a puppies and dog kind of person.
Oh, me too. So is teaching in your future at all, do you think?
Yeah, lecturing at a university. My cousin was a lecturer, and I actually thinking of people I look up to. Yes, I definitely look up to her because she's a lecturer at a university. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I realized that, okay, if I like teaching, so I did some private tutoring while I was doing my master's qualification. And was it my master's? No, started my PhD. Sorry, timelines, everything just sort of falls in together. Yeah, so I started my PhD, I did some private tutoring, which actually I really enjoyed. And I think I realized then that this is something that I did want to like progress regarding a career, but not with children. So they would have to be 17, 18. So I'm thinking probably university is where I want to be.
Further education.
Yeah. Definitely not high school. I couldn't
What do
cope.
you want to be when you grow up, Charlotte?
What do I want to be when I grow up? I want to be a lecturer.
I don't know what I want to be yet. I'm 42.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've said about going in the army and intelligence and things, but I'm not well enough to do those sorts of things, unfortunately.
Really? Well,
Brain's willing, but the body isn't.
So you've got some physical issues as well?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. They haven't got a clue. 8 years this year, I think it is, since I've been under various departments. No idea what's wrong with me.
Really? How do you feel about sharing those details?
I don't know. I talk about it. I've got nothing to hide. You know, if I talk about it, then it might help other people talk about it.
Okay.
So I have a chronic pelvic pain condition. Now they say it's a chronic pelvic pain condition, but they don't actually know what's causing it. So I've been operated on. I've had laparoscopies to see if they could see anything in cameras and things. And so far it's been 0. They found nothing. They said that I had endometriosis. Then they said that I don't. Then it was always, it's in my pelvis, it's in my legs, it's in my back, and I lose feeling in my legs. So they thought I had MS. So I was sent for an MRI, and it turns out I knew that I didn't have that. And I'm now hoping to be transferred to a specialist who deals in something called pelvic congestion syndrome, which is where the veins in your pelvis area are basically like really large, and it can stop with like blood flow, and that's why I could lose feeling in my legs. All the symptoms I have sort of relate to that. So I'm hoping maybe to see a specialist regarding that in the future and maybe have some answers. But at the minute, it's just unknown.
Wow, so your legs go numb, do they?
Yeah, they go completely numb. There was one time actually I was in Manchester. I'd just been to a John Barrowman concert with my mum, and it was the following day, and we'd been walking around Manchester Arndale Centre and all the shops around there, and we'd walked to the train station, and I had to stand up for about half an hour. But luckily I was on crutches, so I used my crutches, and my legs went from under me. So I had to physically like drag myself on the train with my crutches. So if you can imagine like a dog or a cat who's not got used to their back legs and they just use their front, that was basically what I was doing.
Really?
Trying to get myself on this train with all these other people. It was fun.
Yeah, that's not fun. That's not fun.
So
How hard's that been to manage?
I just sort of get on with it. Like I know when it's gonna go. I sort of have some warning. So I do know, like I feel like a tingling. I'm like, okay, something's gonna happen. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it will just be like pins and needles. But other times it's like complete numbing.
Wow.
And it happened actually when I was working as a support worker in a home for autistic individuals. They went numb then, and the people I don't think people believed me. So I was physically stabbing myself with like forks, like trying to show that I just had no feeling in my legs whatsoever.
Oh,
Yeah, they were like, "Oh my god, your legs are numb," and I was like, "Yes, I have tried saying it." I think they just thought I was just, I don't know. Maybe it was more of a shock. I don't want to go saying people didn't believe me, but I think maybe it was more of a shock, like, "Oh my god, what do we do?" So I just thought it's like, yeah, hitting my legs, like, okay, they're not working.
I feel like people really struggle with anything that they can't see. So it's as if they can't believe you that you have perhaps bipolar or your legs are numb. You can't physically see that, can
No.
you? And people just seem to want to argue with us all the time and say, no, that can't be right.
Yeah.
It makes me feel really sad that you have to stab yourself with a fork just to prove that you have numbness in your legs and you can't feel it. Why can't people just accept that? Yeah, guess what? Maybe you sound.
It is, yeah, it is weird. I mean, there's been lots of reports on the news recently. I think the BBC wanted a documentary on how disabled individuals are being targeted, and it's like they may not have a visible disability and they're being targeted.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you've parked in a disabled bay, but you have no right to use that because you don't have a disability. You don't know what's wrong with that person. It's happened to me. You know, sometimes if I'm parked in a disabled bay and the shop's there, I might not, and I'm only going to like nip in and grab, I don't know, a bottle of water or something. I don't need my crutches. It's dependent on the day. And I've got out the car and I've had people saying to me, "You're not disabled. Why are you parking there?" And I've actually physically got my disabled cars out, turned them over to show the photograph of myself because I felt so threatened, and that they didn't believe me. And I just was like, it was sort of I'm rubbing it in their face, like, you know what? No, actually I am. here's the proof.
Why do people
So
care? How does it
yeah,
affect you? How does that affect them? Like, just go and park somewhere else. I just don't understand it. I don't get it.
nope,
We live in a
it
really
makes no sense.
strange time, and I feel like it's getting worse. Of course, I mean, I know I'm going slightly off topic here, but we've got that now with the vaccine and with the masks to do with coronavirus. It is so, so divisive. It's unreal. And it's interesting when you walk around and you see, like last week or maybe the week before we all opened up, everybody's wearing masks, and now the amount of people that just aren't, and then
Mm,
the comments that are being said, and I'm overhearing to people still with masks on. It's like, how does it even affect you? Just crack on with your day, please. Just carry on.
yeah, definitely. I'm still in the mask like cohort.
Yeah, me too. I still wear my mask because, well, it's not about me, it's about other people, and I care about other
Yeah,
people. I want to make
exactly.
sure that other people are safe. But even if I didn't wear a mask, I wouldn't care if somebody else is. I don't feel the need to have to say to somebody whether they're wearing a mask or not. I don't feel the need to speak to them about it. It's their choice. It's their
Exactly.
choice.
That's
It's
how I
nothing
feel. It's
to
like
do
my
with me.
friend invited me to her housewarming party on Sunday, and there were going to be other people there, and I said I'm going to have to wear my mask because I'd actually been at the hospital with my dad on the Friday, and her party was on the Sunday. So I said to her that just to keep everybody safe, including the other people that were there, her and me, I'm just going to wear a mask. Because I mean, all these people were working in like nightclubs and things. It's because they were students and they were studying, so they do bar work and those sorts of things. And at the minute, bars are people just there's no social distancing anymore. There's no people aren't wearing masks in bars, and it's just I just can't get my head around this whole, oh wow, the bars are back open, so everybody just seems to just congregate.
The problem is the mixed messaging, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's still this serious and it's still an issue, um, then the government should be telling us that. But the problem is the government are basically opening things up. So I understand why people are going out
I do.
because
Yeah.
they're being told everything's okay now and you can go out and you don't have to social distance. So why would you bother? It's
Yeah.
only maybe people like us who perhaps read some different things, or we have people within our lives that we need to care about more. Like, I've got my parents are a little bit older and they're vulnerable, so I'm
Yeah.
doing everything I can to make sure that I'm not going to pass anything on to them. They've been double vaccinated, but we know that that doesn't necessarily matter. You still catch it,
Mm.
and I've been double vaccinated and you can still transmit it too. We could spend the entire time talking about coronavirus and all these issues, but I guess the point is, it just seems at the minute such an unkind time where people really want to get in other people's business, and I don't get it.
No, I
I
don't.
just don't get it. So let's move away from that, otherwise we'll frustrate ourselves. Um, so you've had a tough time getting through your undergraduate and masters, being diagnosed with bipolar, having some health issues. Thinking about this pelvic congestion, then, what potentially could be the treatment? How would they uncongest the area?
Well, they can do something. I think I don't. There is an actual proper posh name or term, but I don't know. I don't know what that is. It's a long
Uncongest, I think that's what we should call it.
uncongest. Yeah, I think it's like having stents fitted. I think
Oh, okay.
they go in with like little cameras and like little long wire things and little robot arms. And I don't know what this is. Robot arms. And they just fit stents into the veins so that they help them to like sort of decongest.
Clear. So what are they congested with? Is it kind of like in your heart when people get heart congestion? So it's like plaque buildup and residue?
Sort of, yeah. I think. I don't really know. It's very complicated. I
Yeah,
don't. And then the other option is a total hysterectomy,
really.
which I actually voted for. So I
Okay.
don't know what's going to happen.
So would that help for the pelvic region then? Because I
Yes.
know, okay, because it's quite high, it's a bit higher, isn't it?
Yeah. So they think because obviously it's within the pelvis area, a lot of the like if I have got pelvic congestion syndrome, a lot of the like congestion can be within like around the womb
Mm.
area, but then men can get it as well. So it's not just all women's disease. Men can get it too.
Yeah.
So but it is all around the sort of like reproductive system to some extent, not always. But they do say some people. I mean, it depends who you talk to. Some people have had hysterectomies and they've been like fine, and it's worked, and they've had no issues. Others have had hysterectomies and they still got the pain. So I
Well,
think it just depends.
that was my thought. Was it's almost a really drastic first option, you'd want to potentially exhaust other options before
Yeah.
you think
Well,
about.
I've been medicated from different things. So they put me on Zoladex, which is a injection every month, which was specifically to put my body in the menopause. So I've been through the menopause, medically induced menopause, 3 times.
Right.
And that was heaven. I could function, I could walk, I could run, I don't have what I call brain fog. I get a really bad case of brain fog, where I just don't know what's going on. I can't make sentences make sense. And it's just like having loads of hazy clouds. So that's why I call it brain fog. But and now I forgot what I was going to say. I've got so engrossed in my brain fog. I forgot what I was going to say.
Hysterectomy and
Oh right, yeah. So then I had the Zoladex, and because they said that basically worked, they were on about just removing my ovaries. But they don't know if that will fully cure it, because if I have this congestion syndrome and it is based within like the woman uterus area, then they would have to take that out too. So I don't know. It depends on what happens.
And that's what the specialists are paid good money for, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. So I don't know whether I'll be referred by the NHS, because it actually is the specialist I think is private, but I think you can get NHS referrals, but if not, I think I'll have to go private, which is a bit annoying. But I understand that there's not a lot on this sort of stuff.
No.
There isn't a lot. I mean, chronic pelvic pain affects a lot of women and men, and it's crazy to think the lack of information.
It's like that. It's like that everything at the minute is, it's not just women, it happens to men too.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. Like, okay, I need to include men too. But yeah, there are men that do get these things. Yeah, I'm doing my PhD on something to do with chronic pelvic pain, so it's kind of very interesting.
It's all very timely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is your research? We've not talked about your research yet. What are we doing?
So my research, well, okay, I'll start from the beginning, because this is going to get it could get quite complicated because I forget. So I've got notes on my desk with what I'm doing. So I was originally looking into positive psychology regarding PTSD, but the sample was going to be veterans and civilians who had experienced like domestic violence or sexual abuse or those sorts of things. And unfortunately, I had issues getting the sample. So COVID happened, and Charlotte jumped on the bandwagon of researching COVID, because I thought, right, this thing's come around for a reason. And I turned something that was really negative, really horrendous, into something positive, because actually it benefited me in the sense of that I was using it for my PhD. So I was researching the impact of positive psychology on COVID-19 and how PTSD, whether PTSD was like present. And I've done 2 studies regarding COVID-19, one of which has actually been sort of presented, some of it's been presented at a conference. I have 11, how many variables do I have? I think I have about 9 or 11 variables. So I won't list them, I'll be here till tomorrow. But so some of my research was presented at a conference in June, which was my first conference, and that was very nerve-wracking. So if you get the opportunity to present at a smaller, not international conference, I would recommend doing that first. I've done everything backwards. And it was very, very nerve-wracking. I was so glad when it was over, but it was a great experience. Like, oh my God, I'd do it again if I could. I loved it. So that's one lot of my research. The second set of research I'm doing is on chronic pelvic pain, because I want to see whether experiences of actually having chronic pelvic pain can actually lead to experiences of PTSD, because they're saying that having PTSD or some trauma relates to chronic pelvic pain. But I want to see if the other way around is possible too.
Yes, of course.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't really know what's happening with that study though. I mean, I've got 250 questions, so I need to really shrink it.
Yeah, that's a huge study.
Yeah, really big. So I'm like, yeah, I've got to take variables out and things. So I don't really know. I've kind of put that on the back burner for the time being, but that's my plan. Anyway, I think.
So where do you see it progressing? What's the ultimate aim with this? Well, which bit of research? Because they're very different, them, aren't they?
Yes. So the whole area is actually based around medical trauma. So like how like medical events have led to trauma. So because COVID-19 sort of affected everybody, I thought it was like a good time to look at something, because it was sort of like very Yeah, very different. So COVID-19 affected the whole population, and chronic pelvic pain only affects so many. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to build a model to see if that there is a positive model that can be used from positive psychology to help individuals with medical trauma, because actually they're not always incorporated in the DSM.
Yeah.
So some of the events of medical trauma just don't fit the criteria. So I'm trying to find something that would be specifically beneficial for people with medical trauma.
Very worthy. Very, very worthy.
So from my own experiences, because I experienced the first SARS outbreak, I was in Toronto in Canada at the time of the first SARS outbreak. I was an hour away from the epicenter.
Yeah.
And then COVID-19 happened. So I was like, oh, right, here we go again, another SARS outbreak. And then obviously the chronic pelvic pain I experienced as well. So it's all very personal to me.
Yeah.
So
Do you think
that's
that
kind of
helps
what
you with
happened.
your research, it being
I think so.
personal?
I think so. Definitely.
Does it help with motivation?
I honestly don't know, because I've always just been the sort of person who just spends a life in a study, or my hermit cave as I call it, for like ever anyway. I think maybe this time it could be because it is my research and specifically relevant to me,
Yeah.
both academically and personally. I think maybe that could be part of my motivation. Yeah, never thought of it like that.
Would
That's
make
actually,
sense, wouldn't it?
yeah, it does.
So where do you think this is going to take you then, this research?
I honestly don't know. I mean, between you, me, and anybody else that's watching this, I'm winging it.
Seeing what falls out.
Yeah, I'm winging it. So I think maybe health psychology, possibly health and clinical, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I have been doing lots of research and things around health psychology, and I think this kind of falls within the parameters of that, because obviously it's health based, but it's also mental health related. So I don't really know. But I mean, my PhD was to sort of help me gain a qualification to help me on my path to lecturing. So
Yeah.
I don't really know.
The door's
I'll worry
open.
about it when that comes about and I've finished, and I don't really know what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, the door's open, isn't it? You can just kind of take whatever path approaches you at the time.
Yeah, which
It's
is,
such an
yeah,
interesting area at the minute to do with anything medical and then trauma, because you look at trauma and you look at the medical model. You don't necessarily have to medicalize trauma, and they don't fit together, do they? But you
no,
go to majority of doctors, and they're not necessarily, and professionals, to be fair, they're not necessarily trauma informed.
no, they're not.
You just want to throw these labels at you, which can cause some horrific future
Yeah.
issues.
And there's still people out there that think PTSD specifically to veterans are military. They don't realize that actually the majority of PTSD diagnoses are civilian.
And then the problem comes with some of these diagnoses is it feels at times everybody's got something, and I wonder if they're just thrown about and banded about too much, and they're all almost like a badge of honor. I've got PTSD, or I don't know, I'm depressed, or I've got stress, and
Yeah,
I don't for one second think people are making it up, but I wonder if the lines have got blurred, and we're not entirely sure anymore what constitutes each one. I don't know, it's interesting. And I know
it
that
is.
it's hard to receive help because you need a label to get the help, but then you don't want the label because then that's got long term
Yeah, and the
issues.
stigma, although that is supposed to be getting better, I'm not entirely sure whether it is.
Well,
I've been quite lucky, to be fair,
the jury's
regarding
still
that.
out on that. I think it depends who you socialise with and what your circle is. When you're at university doing the path that we're doing, I think there's no stigma whatsoever, and
Mm,
people are very understanding. Whereas I think in other areas of life, yeah, you can't.
no,
I used to work in the police, and I know that it was very difficult for people to say, "Help me." It was very, very difficult, more so for the men, because they have to be roughy, tufty male cops. They can't possibly say they've been affected by anything. And then you get the older generations who would just say, "I'll get on with it. We've done this sort of stuff for years. Why
yes.
are you complaining?" Um, so I think it depends where you work and what your circle is,
Mm,
doesn't it?
yeah, the idea of mental health and how things are is very interesting, especially when you look back over the years and like the war and the Korean War and Vietnam and all those sorts of things, and then sort of things that have happened in just like civilizations. And it is sometimes I wonder whether you can go too far. So like you've got mental health and we were too far this way about not talking about it. Is it possible to go too far the other way?
Yeah, probably.
And that's
Probably.
just, yeah, I don't know whether that is possible. Just a question I was
Well,
going to put out there.
what's the level of normality? So what my son is 13 and there's times he'll come home from school and he'll say, "Oh mum, I'm so depressed, I'm so stressed, my life's just so stressful." And I sit there and think, what is it though? You know, you going to school, we've all been to school. I mean, maybe I'm now going down the slippery slope of those old cops, but does there still have to be an element of this is normal life? You know, we all go through these stages. We all have to sort of grow up and deal with friendship groups, and deal with going to lessons and learning about time management and learning how school is. How do you get the balance? How do you balance what's normal and what then tips over into a mental health issue? And where does that start? Where do you start saying you've got a mental health issue? Because I feel like those words sometimes make it sound more serious or can attract that stigma.
Yeah,
So where's the beginning and end of that?
exactly. I mean, I sometimes wonder whether there's different groups. So some people can have like mental health difficulties, and then some people could have mental health illnesses.
Mental health problem. Yeah, yeah,
And then
different.
you've got the whole issue of where do you draw the line?
Yeah. I'm really careful that if my son comes home and says that he's got whatever stress is, I certainly don't dismiss him and I'll talk to him and find out what is that stress and what is causing him that pain. So then me as his mum can kind of figure out hopefully where on that line he perhaps fits. Is it something I need to be aware of? Is it something that I need to encourage him with, help him with, or do I need to go and refer him to someone? And I think up to now, it's more been a little bit of drama. He's tagging on to some of he's seen on god awful sites like TikTok, and it's as if he wants to have that label, which is another worry, isn't it? So another thing I've spotted recently with a lot of his friendship group, it's like it's almost cool now to have some sort of mental health label. And
Yeah.
that worries me. That really
Don't get me started on social media.
well. I mean, that is a huge difference than when I was a child. We didn't have, I sounded old. We didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have social media. You know, I left school on a Friday. I didn't see people till a Monday.
Mm,
They are on calls, texting, FaceTime, whatever, social media, messaging all day long. All day long. You know, you cannot get away from it. So I do think there's very much added stresses and pressures for this generation in comparison to what I ever went through. Um, you know, you never get
yeah,
away from the trolls, you never get away from the problem.
no, I didn't have that when I was younger. I did. I mean, I went on holiday quite. I used to go to Canada quite a bit, and I was looking at old footage of our holiday, and it was one of those old-fashioned video cameras, like great big massive thing. And I was like, oh my God, I remember that. And I thought, well, why did I never take any photographs? And then it dawned on me, I didn't have a phone.
Oh,
Didn't have phones then.
I still remember the day of the disposable cameras or waiting for a week while you photographs. I've got
Yeah,
loads of
that's
photo albums.
exactly. Yeah. My mum said they used to come home and send off the little tape to boots or whatever, and
Yeah.
then have it sorted or whatever it's called, and then developed, that's the word, and then it'd be sent back to you. And got hundreds of them.
And then you get the photos and you'd be like, oh, just rubbish because that one's my face, that one's like just the sky.
Yeah, I've got lots of photographs of shoes. A lot
Yeah.
of the videos from our holiday are just my dad's shoes because he forgot to turn the camera off.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different time.
It
Again,
is.
that's another topic we could spend absolutely hours talking about. But it is really interesting, the world of mental health. I think it's really interesting whether it's going to continue down the medical model or whether we are going to have some more trauma informed practice, which I'm on that side. I truly believe in trauma informed practice, and I feel like we need to teach that more in high schools. I think people need to be aware of that. We
Yeah.
need to be aware of how to be kind and to listen to people. And sometimes trauma isn't visible. You know, somebody might be sitting there with a smile on their face doesn't mean they haven't had some bad stuff happen to them. You know, it's your response, isn't it?
It
You know,
is.
a lack of understanding. Yeah. Good luck.
Thanks.
You okay?
Yeah.
I feel like that's almost a
Think
good
so.
place to end, do you?
Yeah. I was like, well, what do I say now?
Yeah, what do we say now?
Yeah.
See, this is the thing when we have these conversations. It takes us wherever it takes us. It's just interesting to follow the threads, isn't it?
It is. It is definitely. But yeah.
But we don't want to get into some giant debates because it's
Be here
just,
all day.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I feel tired with it all, especially when it comes to COVID. I am sick of having just, it feels like micro arguments all the time with people, and especially talk about the vaccine and, oh, I don't want to be part of a trial, and it's like, it's not a trial. Why can't you understand? It's just misinformation, and it's like
Yeah.
Brexit again. Let's go talk about Brexit. We've not gone there. But yeah, I'm tired of having arguments with idiots. And I'm not saying you're an idiot, but just, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, I had an argument in my local shop with somebody who tried to tell me all about COVID, and I was like, please don't. And I've thrown all these facts and figures at her, and I don't know whether she actually believed what I was saying eventually, or whether she just got so fed up with the fact that I was just basically screaming at her.
Bye. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if I was having conversations with people who were informed and not via Facebook, because the friends, sisters, dogs, aunties, sisters, uncles, cousin knows somebody who works at a hospital who told them, sorry, you've lost me. You've lost me.
Yeah.
Go and read a medical journal, come back to me, and then we'll have a discussion. And
Yeah.
then maybe we will get to the bottom of why your opinion is wrong. Yeah, then I'll have those discussions. But oh, I have so many I hear so many conversations. I don't get involved in them anymore because it just irritates me.
Yeah, I'll say that too.
Yeah, you just tell people off in a shop apparently.
Yeah, it was all over a mask. It was actually when a mask was still legal, compulsory, legal. Yeah, it was crazy.
She's not listening to you.
Nope.
You just got to move on. You've just got to move on. You are not going to change people's opinions or teach people things because they don't want to be taught. They don't want to change their opinion. Facebook has told them. That's what it is. See, this is a funny story. I went for a walk with my son a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me something. I can't remember. It was some kind of piece of information, and I was like, "Can I just stop you right there? Did you learn this on TikTok?" Yes. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. But that's where he gets all his information now. It's TikTok. They do videos, and they'll, some of them are really informative, but they're not based on anything. It's just someone sat in front of a camera reading things or regurgitating what they've heard. And this generation are believing it and thinking about it. Some things are correct, of course they are, but the majority aren't.
Oh, I just watch dog videos.
Yeah.
Dog videos. That's it. I don't even have TikTok. I'm not down with the kids.
Not down with kids. I don't blame you.
Not down with the kids.
Well, I think it's safe to say your educational journey, my dear, is not ended yet, and it's probably going to continue for some while. So I want to wish you well with all your research, and long may it continue.
Thank you. And you.